Hello learners, welcome back to the course on learning and development in organization. Today we moved to the second lecture of the last module where we were discussing about the innovations in learning and development. Now this is a very interesting topic because we have tried to assimilate and understand what exactly is learning and development over the past 11 modules. But now we are trying to look into the future, as I mentioned in the previous module, in the previous session also. But now when we look into the future, we have to understand what are the possible innovations and who will be the drivers. And the driver essentially would be technology. So today we start with a topic, technology in learning and development. So this will be discussed in two parts. This will be part one. We'll be looking into larger technology that is enabling, that is facilitating, and that is enhancing the learning and development within organizations. I am Dr. Abraham Cyril Issac. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Business, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. Now, straight away, moving into the topic, when we look into the message for today, we would start with what Warren Buffett has said. In the business world, the rear view mirror is more clearer than windshield. Now, when you look into this particular quote specifically, you will try to understand what are the realities that happen in the business world. In business world, what you look into the future. So whenever I'm telling that we will start looking into the future with respect to learning and development, it's all about looking into the windshield. We might not be able to get that clarity as in case of the business world. In business world also, rear view mirror is more clearer than windshield. We might not be able to see. So we have to predict, we have to prepare ourselves, and pragmatically we have to move in such a way that we are equipped to move forward and face the future. And this is where technology will act as an enabler. So let's understand this in greater detail. So when you talk about technology, learning and development specifically, the 21st century workplace has undergone a radical shift due to advances in information and communication technologies, what we call as ICT. So these changes have reshaped learning and development in organizations, transitioning it from traditional classroom-based instruction to digitally enabled, collaborative and data-informed ecosystems, which we have categorically discussed in the previous session. So if you have gone through the previous session, we have tried to understand the shift that has happened specifically to the digital world. Now, when you talk about the entire technology playing a role, I would say technology plays a dual role in learning and development. Let's understand this. As a subject of learning, that is, organizations learning how to adopt and use technology. So this is one way of understanding it, where organizations try to learn how to adopt and use technology. And on the other hand, you have it as a tool for facilitating the learning. That is, technology that supports knowledge creation, that supports transfer and application. So when you talk about this technology, it essentially plays this dual role, both as a subject of learning and as a tool for facilitating. So the role of technology in learning and development, to sum it up, there are two central concepts that help us understand this particular transformation. That is the virtual human resource development, VHRD, and the organizational memory system. Let's understand both this VHRD and OMS in greater detail. When you talk about the virtual human resource development, VHRD, if you have the time, please go through the paper of Mutamba 2017. According to Mutamba 2017, virtual human resource development, VHRD, refers to the integration of digital technologies into HRD process to deliver, support, and enhance learning in organization. So typically you have the delivery part, the support part, and enhancement that is happening. So this categorically enables remote, asynchronous and collaborative development experiences. So VHRD, virtual human resource development, goes beyond just digitizing classroom training. It includes interactive, immersive, and socially connected learning environments designed to meet the needs of modern dispersed workforces. Now, when we look into virtual human resource development, we have to also understand what are the typical key applications of VHRD in L&D. We look into the virtual human resource development specific to L&D. We should start with the LMS, the e-learning platforms. You look into e-learning platforms, the learning management systems, be it the Moodle or the Blackboard, or maybe even the SAP, success factors. They allow hosting and tracking of courses. They do the automatic assessments and certifications. They go for personalized learning paths, and they also integrate with HR systems for analytics. So these systems typically, I would say, serve as central hub for all the learning activity. The second possibility here is with respect to the web-based coaching and mentoring. The moment you say web-based coaching, what comes to my mind is Coach Hub or MentorClick. So these offer virtual one-on-one sessions, coaching sessions. These offer real-time feedback and goal tracking. They secure the video calls and progress the dashboards. So when you talk about the web-based coaching and mentoring, this expands access to coaching, and please note, it reduces the geographical barriers. The third possibility or the third key application of virtual human resource development in L&D would be the digital simulations and gamified learning. We had a holistic discussion about the gamified learning in the previous class. But please note, when you're talking about the digital simulations and gamified learning, simulations create realistic problem-solving environments for learners to practice new skills. Especially it could be in the area of something like leadership or say, let's say negotiation or even the crisis management. So typically, gamification adds elements like the points, the challenges, the leaderboards. So these typically increase engagement and retention. The fourth significant application that comes to my mind when I talk about virtual human resource development is the webinar or the synchronous video sessions. What we generally do these days, especially post-COVID, is live learning events via Zoom, Teams, or Google Meet. So these are the popular platforms. That's why I'm naming them. They do interactive workshops, or they facilitate them. They facilitate cross-functional learning. They facilitate real-time question and answer sessions and breakout discussions. So, people who have attended my NPTEL Plus workshops, we generally evaluate you based on the breakout sessions typically done for case study discussions, etc. So combined with recordings, these sessions support blended and flexible learning models. So these are some of the potential key applications of virtual human resource development in learning and development. Now, let's look into why the VHRD matters, or why typically virtual human resource development matters. Because we have already seen the potential key application, but why is VHRD significant? Please note, it makes learning accessible to global teams. It supports on-demand, self-paced development. So many a time what is different from the traditional way of learning and development is a self-paced development, the possibility of that exists with VHRD. It encourages social and collaborative learning, and it also enhances the scalability and cost effectiveness. So when designed strategically, the virtual human resource development VHRD aligns closely with the organizational goals, and it improves both individual performance and the enterprise agility. Now let's look into the second part, that is organizational memory system, OMS. If you have the time and bandwidth again, please go through this paper, one of the finest paper, Roby et al. 2000. It highlights organizational memory system, which we call it as OMS, as information system that store, that organize, and make accessible the collective knowledge and the experience of an organization. So this is vital. Whenever you talk about an organization, this is critical, and this is what I would generally say organizational memory or institutional memory. I have, mentioned it in most of my sessions, not only in this course, but also in organizational behavior and AI in HRM. So please note, ladies and gentlemen, when you're talking about, one person working in an organization, let's say for some 10, 20, 30 years. So vast experience, vast set of knowledge input he is having or she is having. The moment, let's say, he is retiring or he is moving out to another organization, he moves out, there creates or there happens a vacuum. So a new person coming in, stepping into that particular shoes of this person, it is very difficult for him or her, the new person, to actually acclimatize and start working from day one. So he or she may start taking a little bit of time, which will be detrimental for the organization. Why not? The organization has a platform whereby all the experience, all the information that is learned, that is gained, can be saved or stored. So this is particularly what we understand as a knowledge repository, and that essentially translates into what we understand as an institutional memory or an organizational memory. So the moment you start to codify, or in simpler terms, you start to write down something, people do start comprehending, people do start understanding, and somebody who is coming to the system as a new person, he or she might be directly exposed to this information and they can start working without any glitch. So this is what organizational memory or institutional memory can facilitate. That's why this point becomes highly critical. So when we look into this OMS, as I mentioned, the organizational memory system, it's an information system that stores, organizes, and makes accessible the collective knowledge and experience of an organization. So typically, OMS allow organizations to preserve insights that would otherwise be lost due to employee turnover, project closure, or time gaps. So these systems make learning permanent, these systems make learning searchable and scalable. Now, let's look into the key types of organizational memory system. What are the different types of organizational memory technologies? We start with the first one, which is expert system. Please note, when you're talking about expert system, this is more of a rule-based AI program that mimic decision making of a human expert. So it is used for, let's say, something like troubleshooting, diagnostics, or guided workflows. The second possibility or second type of organizational memory technology is with respect to the knowledge database, or what we understand as the knowledge databases. So repositories of best practices, it could be SOPs, standard operating procedures, or FAQs, or even case studies. So they allow for easy access to lessons learned from past projects or initiatives. So this is what is critical with respect to the knowledge database. The third possibility here, or the third type of organizational memory technology, is the shared intranet drivers or the document portal, sometimes the most important asset of an organization. So when you look into the shared intranet drives or document portals, we see that there could be some platforms like SharePoint or Google Workspace that exist within an organization. So what it does is that it organizes documents, it organizes templates and resources by department or project. So typically, the shared intranet drives or the document portals facilitate cross-functional knowledge sharing. The fourth critical aspect, or the fourth key type of organization memory technology, is AI-driven learning and knowledge recommendation tool. So AI-driven learning and knowledge recommendation tools essentially use algorithms to suggest relevant learning resources. They use the surface content based on, let's say, job role or behavior or career goals. So examples could be Degreed, Edcast, or LinkedIn Learning AI suggestions. So these are some of the possible organizational memory systems. Now let's look into why this OMS, organizational memory systems, are crucial to L&D. When we look into the OMS, they capture tacit knowledge and make it explicit. No need for an explanation. This is why I have categorically said, why institutional memory or organizational memory is essential, to make tacit knowledge into more explicit. It reduces the repetition of mistakes and duplication of effort. Basically, it prevents people from making mistakes. It enables faster onboarding, something which I've already mentioned, and smoother transitions. And it ensures that learning is retained long after the training ends. So these are some of the typical aspects concerned with OMS, or what makes OMS, organizational memory systems, more crucial to L&D. So in essence, if you ask me, organizational memory systems make learning institutional, turning individual insights into shared organizational intelligence. Now let's look into a combination of VHRD and OMS. So when you're looking into the combination, it's a powerful learning ecosystem. So together, the virtual HRD and the organizational memory system create a feedback-rich learning environment. So when you talk about the VHRD, it's all about the learning delivery. It delivers training and development, whereas OMS mainly stores insights, decisions, and outcomes. So this is a delivery agent. You can term it like that, whereas OMS is more of a storage facility. You look into the VHRD, that is a virtual human resource development. It supports real-time learning, but OMS enables long-term reuse and reflection. You look into the VHRD, it encourages collaboration, whereas the OMS, the organizational memory system, promotes consistency across teams. And finally, VHRD typically scales learning experience. That is the possibility that VHRD brings in. But when you look into OMS, it does something else. It institutionalizes the lessons learned. So scaling is not what is significant in case of the organizational memory system. Rather, it institutionalizes the lessons that are learned. So while the virtual human resource development powers the now of the learning, I will state like this: it powers the now of the learning. OMS, that is organizational memory systems, they protect the then of learning, ensuring today's insights aren't lost tomorrow. Now, as part of my promise to have a clear discussion on what is happening with respect to the world of practice, and to bridge and connect our discussions towards the world of practice, we'll discuss a couple of case studies today. We'll start with the first case of Infosys. So in the last session also, we had looked more into the world of practice, and in the fag end of the entire course, typically the last few modules, we have successfully looked into many case studies. This is yet another one where we look into Infosys, which is all about building a culture of continuous learning with Lex company profile. Let's understand this, which is all about building a culture of continuous learning. Let's understand this. When you look into the company profile, Infosys is a global IT leader in India with 300,000 plus employees that delivers software and consulting services. So being one of India's top IT service companies with such a global workforce, it is known for its large-scale software development and consulting projects. So Infosys operates in a highly dynamic, innovation-driven industry. So the challenge was, with rapid advancements in digital technology, let's say AI, machine learning, blockchain, etc., clients began demanding cutting-edge capabilities. So Infosys recognized a gap between existing employee skills and the future demands of the industry. So the need was to upskill employees at a scale, make learning accessible, engaging, and personalized, create a system that tracks learning outcomes and aligns with business goals. What was the solution? The solution was Infosys Lex, that is a digital learning platform. So when you look into Infosys typically bringing out the solution, it developed Lex, an in-house mobile-first digital learning platform that is now the backbone of its corporate learning strategy. So, it was having certain typical features like AI-based content recommendations based on employee roles, interests, and typically the past learning that happened in the organization. There was clear integration with the virtual labs to practice the coding and technical skills. There were elements of gamifications and certifications were given to encourage engagement altogether. Self-paced learning happened, complemented by live instructor-led sessions, and it tracks completion, assessment, and learning hours. So what was the result or what it led to was astounding. 200,000 plus users engaged within the first 2 years. This was a success. So shift from a push-based to a pull-based learning culture, that is what Infosys could actually get to. So higher internal mobility as employees could reskill for new roles, and accelerated project readiness and reduced dependency on external hiring totally happened. So what are the key takeaways? If we look into this particular case study in a very objective fashion, investing in custom-built platforms can offer flexibility and cultural fit. Personalization and AI can significantly boost learning relevance and adoption. And please note, learning is not an event. It's a continuous career-long process. We switch ourselves to another case study. We look into Tata Steel now. Tata Steel, which drives the workforce transformation with Digishala. Let's look into Tata Steel. Let's understand the company profile for the people who don't know. A subsidiary of Tata Group, Tata Steel is one of India's oldest and the most respected industrial enterprises. So with a workforce exceeding thousands, many of its employees are in traditional manufacturing and operational roles. What was the challenge here? Facing the pressure of Industry 4.0 and the need for digital transformation. So Tata Steel typically needed to, one, reskill its workforce for automation and data-driven operations. Two, shift from the classroom to scalable digital learning, that is, move beyond the classroom training to a more scalable and accessible L&D model. And three, to build a digital fluency across all levels, including the shop floor workers. So these were the typical constraints or challenges that came across in case of Tata Steel. The solution was Tata Steel Digishala. So when you're looking into this particular solution, the company launched this Digishala, a blended digital learning ecosystem focused on functional and behavioral training, focused on digital awareness and upskilling, and leadership development. So I repeat, this Digishala was a blended digital learning ecosystem that was focused on functional and behavioral training, it was focused on the digital awareness, it was focused on leadership development. So these were the typical aspects that the digital learning ecosystem was focused on. Now coming to the features, this was a centralized LMS for hosting e-learning modules, assessments and tracking, AR/VR simulations for realistic training in plant safety and machinery handling was there, micro-learning modules for quick job-relevant models, moments, micro-learning modules for quick Job relevant learning moments were there, and digital badges and gamification to motivate the participation was also included. So what we understand with respect to the introduction of this Tata Steel Digishala was that over 70% of the employees engaged in digital learning programs within the first 2 years. So this is a significant reduction in training costs and safety incidents. It was recognized by National HR Awards for innovation in L&D, and it created a strong foundation for adopting smart manufacturing systems. So when you look into the key takeaways, even blue collar and frontline workers could be effectively trained using these digital tools. And we look into the AR and VR and gamification enhancement in traditionally rigid training domains. And finally, learning and development, when aligned with business transformation, we understood that it becomes a strategic enabler of change. So typically, if you compare between both these scenarios, both the case studies of Infosys and Tata Steel, we quickly analyze this in terms of workforce type. You look into Infosys, you have more of knowledge workers, IT professionals. You look into the Tata Steel, it's more of the industrial workforce. So it has the shop floor as well as the staff. You look into the L&D challenge, which we just discussed. For Infosys, if it was future skill readiness, for Tata Steel, it was digital upskilling for Industry 4.0, something very parallel. Solution was for Infosys in-house AI-powered learning platform, which they call as Lex. For Tata Steel, they came out with the blended learning, that is Digishala. The unique features with respect to Lex and Shala were virtual labs, AI, mobile learning for the Lex, as well as AR, VR training, LMS, gamification, etc. for the Digishala respectively. When you look into the organizational impact, and this is what is more critical to our discussion today. Before ending, I will say that the organizational impact for Infosys was it became more project ready. It became more critical or more crucial or more enhanced or interested in the talent mobility. Whereas in case of Tata Steel, the safety was one factor, performance was one factor, and even they were able to get a better employee engagement. So from this discussion, typically what we understand is that whatever technology that comes in for learning and development, it will push the learning and development initiatives. We have seen this categorically in theory. That's why I wanted to bring a parallel with respect to the world of practice. We looked into Tata Steel, we looked into Infosys. We understood that typically the technology can definitely enhance the learning and development process. And this is what we see from the case study specific to Tata Steel and Infosys. Thank you for listening to me patiently. We'll come up with more details of technology and learning development in the next session. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.